you, Karen. Good day and welcome to today's service. We're grateful that you're here with us today. My name is Christy Williams and I will be the service coordinator today. Our mission here is to seek truth, practice love, and celebrate life. Whether you're joining us for the first time or been a member for a long time, you're welcome here. Whatever faith you have known or not known, whatever heritage, you are welcome here. Whatever questions you hold, whatever truths you seek, whatever sorrow you have known, whatever joy has filled your heart, whoever you are, and whomever you love, you are welcome here. And now for a few announcements. I'm going to call your attention to the insert in your program that will have all of our announcements on it. And in addition, down in Eliza's kitchen and basement, today only, there's some plates and a few coffee cups free for the taking. And then is there anyone else that has any announcements? Janet?
Just wanted to remind you that today we're still going on our pledge drive, so if you've turned one in, thank you. If you haven't, and you know what you're gonna give, we have extra cards here. So we'd be glad to take care of that for you. And if you just haven't made the pledge yet, just think about that and take care of that soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Janet. Anyone else? Okay, with that, I think we are going to, I'm gonna ask her to play again for our prelude. Okay, and today for our chalice lighting, 431. O spinner, weaver of our lives, your loom is love. May we who are gathered here be empowered by that love to weave new patterns of truth and justice into a web of life that is strong, beautiful, and everlasting. Thank you, Miss. And And now we're gonna go into our first song, 115, God of Grace and God of Glory. Now, if you'll turn to our first reading, number 666. I'll read the regular print, if you'll read the italicized. The legacy of Karen. Despair is my private pain, born from what I have failed to say, failed to do, failed to overcome.
Be still, my inner self, let me rise to you. Let me reach down into your pain and soothe you.
I turn to you to renew my life. I turn to the world, the streets of the city, the worn tapestries of broken ferns.
Drug dealers, private estates, personal things in the bag lady's cart.
Rage and pain in the faces that turn from me, afraid of their own inner worlds.
This common world I love anew, as the lifeblood of generations who refuse to surrender their humanity in the new world. Courses through my veins.
From within this world, my despair is transformed to hope.
And I begin anew the legacy of prayer.
Thank you. Now it's time for the story of all ages. I don't know if we have any children here today. So, I can definitely read it. Okay. Well, then I'm not gonna get down here. I'll just read it from up here, if that's all right, because I got a mic. So, actually, it's got pictures. It's got very great pictures. I can just get my thing unlocked here, we're good to go. You know? Oh, good, it wasn't gonna let me unlock it because it wasn't connected to the internet, but it did, good. So, our story today is what I wanna be when I grow up, a police officer. every day. And then we're gonna find out from our speaker if that's accurate. Hi, I'm Officer Rosa. Welcome to our police station. As police officers, we keep our community safe and help those who need us. This is where we keep track of everything happening in our community. We collect clues and keep everything safe to help solve mysteries. Every officer has their own locker for their uniforms and tools. Zoom curiously examines a walkie-talkie while Mia tries on a toy badge. Would you like to try on a badge too? Every day starts with making sure we all have our tools ready. These tools help us do our job well. The flashlight helps us to see in the dark, and the radio keeps us connected. Now we're ready to go on patrol and make sure everyone's safe. When we patrol, we make sure everything looks safe and check if anyone needs our help. Helping people cross safely is one way to keep everyone safe. It's important that everyone knows we're here to help. Sometimes we even help lost pets find their way home. Let's get the kitten home safely. Back at the police station, Officer Rosa gives Mia and Zoom a special mission to practice their observation skills by looking for a lost teddy bear. Can you help us look for clues? Look closely, just like a real detective. This is probably a little bit further than you can see the clues, so I'm gonna give you this time. Great job, you found the teddy. You make a great team. Thanks for coming along. Police officers are here to keep everyone safe. Yeah. Thank you. I will. Okay. Let's just sing people out. Well, not people, our imaginary children.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
In this congregation, we found it helpful to share the ups and downs of our lives by the practice of taking a stone from a bowl, holding it in our hand, warming it, and expressing our thoughts of joy and or concern, and then placing the stone in the water so the ripples of the water carry our joys and concerns out into the wider world. Well, I'll begin by taking a stone, and I don't have a particular joy or concern right now, other than hoping my workplace accommodation gets approved. So I guess that would be mine. Anyone else like to?
Hi, I'm Scott. I have a drama and a joy. First the drama. I decided to get a electric car since the Teslas were going down in price so incredibly fast. And we found a nice one that Steve Nesbitt helped me find in the local area. And we got there just as someone else was approved for the car. And I was pouty, but I did remind myself every 3 weeks there's a deal of a lifetime. So my wife got back on the internet and she found a almost brand new car. Fully electric, sporty red. And then she went out and found the loan for it. And I can honestly say my lovely wife Janet has completely bought me a nice shiny new all electric car. The other one is a small gift. Downstairs by the juice is a bucket with 4 hazelnut trees in them. Cuttings from my pruning. If anyone wants one, you're welcome to it. If you don't want it, that's okay, because Eric's going to take whatever's left.
Good morning, my name is Pat, and this I guess is a joy or an observation. I think it was last Sunday when we were leaving church and driving south. I looked at a sign that I saw beside the road and started laughing. And I said to my husband, I said, this is ironic. Just imagine, it said open house right by the cemetery fence. And I just started getting pictures in my head of what is an open house in a cemetery like? Is there such a thing? And so anyway, I guess I wanted to share that with you because today my joy is thank goodness for humor.
All right. All right. Good morning, Kevin Kolb, and I'd like to share with you Pete Seeger was a folk singer, passed in 2014. He's also UU, and for those of you who are looking for some hope nowadays, I thought I'd share this with you. He says, when I meet people who say, oh, there's no hope, Peter, look at the things that are going wrong, and those stupid people in Bosnia, there are going to be stupid things like that all around the world. Power-hungry people says, I know how to handle this, just give me the bomb, there's no hope. But I say to them, I said, do you ever think that a great Watergate president would leave the office the way he did? No, I guess I didn't think that. I said, do you think that the Berlin Wall would come down so peacefully? No, I didn't think that would happen. Yeah. I said, did you think that Mandela would be president of South Africa? No, I didn't. Excuse me. But no, I didn't predict that. Well, if you couldn't predict those 3 things, then don't be so confident that there's no hope. And I give them a bumper sticker. It says, there's no hope, but I may be wrong.
Thank you, Kevin. Okay, so I'm Carol, and I have 2 things. Number 1, I'm going to thank Scott every time I come. He always has a cup of tea for me to warm me up in the cold weather that we've had. A cup of tea and a cookie always makes me feel very comfortable then to get going. So that's just for Scott. Secondly, last night I had an opportunity here to hear a live stream broadcast of a student at the University of Vermilion who is doing his violin recital, his violin degree recital. And this was a student that I had accompanied way back when he was in high school. So we've kind of kept track of one another. And he was also responsible for helping me choose my upgraded violin when I upgraded my violin. And so these are 2 great things that I have to be thankful for. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put one final stone in for all the joys and concerns that were unsaid today, and that goes out into the world. And then I'm going to take a moment of reflection. Okay, our second song is number 120, Turn Back, verses 1 and 2, please. Okay, our second reading is going to be number 637. Again, I'll read the regular text if you read the italicized. A litany of atonement. For remaining silent when a single voice would have made a difference.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again now.
For each time that our fears have made us rigid and inaccessible.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again now.
For each time that we have struck out in anger without just cause.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again now.
We forgive for each time that our greed has blinded us to the needs of others.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again now.
For the selfishness which sets us apart and alone.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again now.
For falling short of the admonitions of the Spirit.
We forgive ourselves and each other.
For losing,
again now.
for losing sight of our unity.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again now.
For those and for so many acts, both evident and subtle, which have fueled the illusion of separateness.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again now.
And Robert Eller Isaacs. Today I have the pleasure of introducing Dennis and John Thum. They are going to speak with us. They're here from Sioux Falls. John is our Sioux Falls Police Chief, and Dennis is a retired pastor. And their topic is love and grace. So please welcome them.
Good morning. I'm going to move this a little bit just to make sure that that works. Okay. And my name is Dennis Thum. I'm originally from Scotland, South Dakota, if you know where that's at. It's about 75 miles away, farm community. This is my son, John. And we've never done, well, we did something like this at the Presbyterian Church one time, and Peter Holland called me and said, would you like to try and do that again? And I soon learned I'm just the setup, John's the feature. Because who needs to hear an old Baptist preacher? So I retired recently from the University of Sioux Falls. I was campus pastor there for 33 years. Prior to that, I was chaplain at the state penitentiary back in the day when it was a Protestant chaplain slash religious activities coordinator. Prior to that, I was in the military. I did 20 years in the reserves, and I was also ordained in Sioux Falls and worked in a variety of ministry roles. But 38 years ago, 1987, right about this time, I was offered a job at the penitentiary as a chaplain, and I jumped at the opportunity and found that for the first time in my professional ministry life, I was thankful that I actually went to seminary. Up to that point, it just didn't seem like I was really enjoying, fulfilled in what I was doing. Landed at the penitentiary and began to be surrounded with all kinds of interesting people and fascinating stories, and it was there that I learned the true meaning of grace. And it was in those encounters time and again where I sometimes would meet people that I had read about their crimes years earlier and now saw the person behind the story. It's been said that police pick up people on the worst day of their life. Chaplains many times meet people at a very different stage of their life. One person in particular, and there were many of them, but one in particular that struck me was, his name was Randy. We were about the same age, and he was a lifer. And Randy, as I got to know him, was the kindest, gentlest soul, but that was only after he'd been through a horrific journey in life. In fact, the way he got arrested on the worst day of his life, the day before, his wife had taken his weapon out of his truck, unbeknownst to him. And so when Randy was surrounded by police, he was going to go out in a blaze, and he was going to take as many people with him as possible. And when he stopped the truck and reached behind to get the gun, it was gone. And so he surrendered. It saved his life and who knows how many other lives. But Randy was a dear friend, is a dear friend. And little did I know at that time, because I had a 7-year-old son, that one day my 7-year-old son would grow up to be one of those people that would get shot at. And on more than one occasion that has happened. And that's where the interesting thing about grace and law kind of comes together, doesn't it? It's one thing to deal with someone and give them grace and see the journey in their lives, and then it's another thing to suddenly realize that under different circumstances at a different time, he could have been the greatest nightmare of my life. But that's life in the real world, isn't it? That we want to be an instrument of peace. We want to make that difference. We want to give people the benefit of the doubt. And then ugly realities come in and they terrify us. And so many times I've thought about Randy, my friend, and many others that thankfully they found grace eventually, even in the craziness of their life. In 1991, I left the penitentiary and went to then Sioux Falls College. I was invited to be the campus pastor. And I wouldn't take the job if one of the lifers at the penitentiary, Tex, who had killed somebody at the Sturgis Bike Rally, told me to take the job. Tex said, you need to do that because I see you're starting to burn out here. And besides, this will be a great opportunity for your kids. And interestingly, that turned out to be true. All 3 of my sons were able to go to USF and experience a great opportunity to develop. Well, one of the interesting things for me from going from a going from a prison chaplain to a campus pastor is I went from a place where it was people filled with a lifetime of regret to a people that were now a congregation that was now a lifetime of possibilities. And I got to be around, I also went from being what I considered an activist to being engaged very much in the day-to-day struggles of life to suddenly being engaged in not just pastoring but also teaching. And I went from the world of activism to the world of idealism. You sit in the classroom and you can speculate about all kinds of things, and you can write position papers about where you think things ought to be, and you can come down with your logical arguments for what you ought to be doing and how it ought to be. But sometimes living in the world of ideas, and as important as education and ideas are, sometimes we stay there, and how do we get out into the nitty-gritty day-to-dayness of life? And so in that journey, grace and law take on a whole new direction in that you find yourself thinking a lot, having the time to think, having the luxury to think. But then when it comes to the end of the day, when it's all said and done, what have you actually done? You may have said a lot, but did you actually do a lot? And, but that's life, isn't it? You can only do so much, and over the years you find that as an idealistic young seminarian, I wanted to go out and change the world. And while I was in seminary, twins were born in my family. And John has an identical twin brother, and if you ever have surgery at Sanford Hospital, you might find that it looks like the chief of police is putting you to sleep, but it's actually his identical twin, and they do have times when in the community people get them confused.
Stealing my jokes
So, have you done your good? But what I learned is back in those days, I wanted to change the world, but I was not called to change the world, I was called to change diapers. And in the process, it changed me. And I became a better person. But they saw me at my worst. But that transformation in your journey of where you go from living in what you dream about, what you think about, what you want to do, and what you actually get done. And you come to that realization at some point that I can't do everything for everyone, but what I can do, I must do. And I take one step and do what I can, and then I have to let go and step away. Now in retirement, whole new era of my life, where I step away and find myself doing less, thinking more, and wondering what's the next thing to do. And when Peter Holland called me and said, would you guys like to come over, you and John like to come over and speak? I said, well, this is something I can try to do. I can't do everything for everyone. I wish I'd have done more for my sons. I wish I'd have been a better dad. I did the best I could at the time. Can't do everything for everyone, but what you can do, you must do. And it's been a new call in my life every day to pray for my kids, my grandkids, and to watch God at work in their lives. And so that's really my journey, is to see God at work and realize that many times I got to see people on their better days, but John consistently has to see people on their worst days and has to deal with the realities of all the things that you can ask him questions about later, because I'm done now. I'm the setup act, and now I'd like to introduce my son, John, too.
It's on now.
There you go. All right, perfect. Yeah. Thanks for the invite today. And again, I hope you see the name on the marquee out there. I haven't seen that too often. I think, what does it say? Thum and Thum? Yeah. Maybe we should start a show in Branson. I don't know. Maybe that's something to take up. But you know, it's again, and it's a unique position to be in. And I never turned down a speaking engagement as part of my position. When I started as chief, I'm like, if whoever invites me, I'll come, no matter what. I'll always come. And so when Peter and Alan got a hold of Dad, I saw Alan somewhere, and I'm like, yeah, be happy to come talk this morning and talk about some of these topics. But again, name's John Thum. I hope no one thought John Thum was coming. Believe it or not, it's happened. I was a younger officer, and I was going to speak to the kids at the Multicultural Center. I've always been involved in community outreach stuff, and I called the day before, and I'm like, hey, just want to confirm you have me down for tomorrow after school program, John Thum. Just want to make sure you know I'm coming. Yes, we are so honored that you would come to speak to our kids. And I'm, a training officer, outreach officer at this point. I'm like, wow, my reputation surely precedes me. They're excited to have me. So I show up, and lady kind of looks at me puzzled, and the lady next to her goes, see, I told you, John Thum's coming, not John Thum. Disappointing people for years. Born and raised in Sioux Falls, and like my father mentioned, I have an identical twin brother who's an anesthesiologist. I have a little brother who's a urologist, and I have 7 to 10 concussions, which took the math and science portion of my brain and just didn't function as well. So people used to always joke and ask, like, oh, what happened to you? You got 2 brothers who are doctors, you got this. And so I give that explanation. Well, my anesthesia twin brother, he works with anesthesiologists. Anybody know anesthesiologists? They're pretty fun and happy because I think patients only see them when they really want to see them. Like they're taking away pain or they're putting them out,
And so they started teasing my brother though, they're like, hey, your other brother's a surgeon, your other brother's a chief of police, and you're just an anesthesiologist? Like, it kind of makes you the lesser of the Manning brothers. I can't even remember what his name was, so they kind of tease a little bit. But no, it's some funny circumstances where some of our officers have gone in to have their kids, and they don't realize that he exists. And in walks the chief. You're in this vulnerable moment where you're about to have your child, and the chief walks in to give you your epidural, and it's produced some kind of funny moments. And then for the other spectrum of our officers, you get to that age where you're 45, and I recommend you go in regularly for your colonoscopy. But if that first time is pretty vulnerable, and in your vulnerable state, the chief of police walks in to put you under for your colonoscopy. It's the circle of life, I guess. But no, and then it's good that you interjected this, because people like to talk, and I never thought I'd be chief. We'll talk about that a little bit, but I am now, and people recognize me from the news, and with that, there's a little bit of unnecessary byproduct. My wife is of Hispanic descent. My brother's wife is Irish. There was a hot rumor last summer that I was stepping out brazenly on my wife in downtown Phillips Avenue in Sioux Falls, and I could not figure out where that came from. I guess that's why I was never a detective, because I couldn't put two and two together, and then I finally figured that one out. So it's now part of the public speaking package, just so people know. So that way there's not, because like I said, people like to talk. But born and raised Sioux Falls, like I said, skipped through some of it, but I'm a Longfellow, Lowell, Axtell Park, Lincoln High School kid. And then when it came time to pick a career, we grew up in Pettigrew Heights. 16th and Duluth was our house. Still sitting there today. My paper route as a kid was that neighborhood, Argus Leader Shopping News Route, which Dad and the grandparents helped out quite a bit to keep the shopping news empire afloat, which is now no longer there. But came time to pick a college, I knew I wanted to be in service. Every time at church, I'd fill out the spiritual gift inventory, if anybody ever did that back in the day. And time again, it would come back service. It was always service. And even if I think about mission trips I did as a kid, or things that I was doing, I was really happy doing some sort of physical labor or something that served somebody else. Now, I wasn't always doing the dishes or mowing the lawn, but I knew it was, at church, if there was chairs to be set up, I wanted to set them up. Chairs to take them down, need an usher, I'm your guy, whatever was there was there. But we don't always think about when we're kids, what do you want to be when you grow up, right? I always wanted to be a police officer in the military, just because my family's heritage in the military. But you get to college and just wanted to play football. And got 90% off my tuition at USF. Carol instructed some of my friends in piano and music theory, if I remember right. Yeah.
I did do it for 6 years.
6 years, yeah. But gotta pick a major, and what 18-year-old truly knows what they want to do? You don't. And I'll tell you, one of the lies we tell our kids right now is that they should have that figured out at 18. I could get into a whole sidebar topic about how that's just not, we're forcing kids into decisions, and they make these decisions, and that's part of the burnout we're seeing right now within teaching, nursing, and policing. But that's a topic for a different day. So I have to pick a major, pick a business major, because that's what's available. There's not a criminal justice major. And I'm thankful for that, because I've got a diverse education. I use finance and marketing and economics now, more than my police knowledge, just in my current position. But it got through college, and football didn't work out for me. I always kind of joke, football got me as far as Wisconsin. Got injured a lot. Well, then after several injuries, I joined choir, and I got to Europe twice. And so I tell kids again, I'm like, well, what are you gonna do, right? Music and sports and well-rounded education is important. So football got me to Wisconsin, choir got me singing in Notre Dame. It's things like that. And so the cool thing with a liberal arts education and doing things that maybe are a little bit different. Well, I had to pick a career, right? So you get done, got this business major. It's now 2003, 2004. The job market wasn't too hot. There's not a lot of jobs. There's a little bit of a slowdown at that point. Nobody will hire me. I thought I was pretty clever, had a marketing emphasis. I figured, but by the way, despite my name, my notoriety still comes from being Dennis Thum's kid, because especially throughout the city, he's so well known within the prison and pulpit supply in different areas. I thought, well, maybe the Thum name will at least get me an interview. That didn't happen. Got turned out for some other jobs. Well, I ended up taking this sales job, and I learned something from the failure of my football career, that whatever you do, give it your best effort and do not quit on yourself. And so I took this sales job knowing that I wanted to be in law enforcement. This sales would give me Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. And that's something that people think they want, and they think sometimes is the most profession. Started this sales job, and within 30 days, I hated it so bad. Not because my boss treated me terribly, not because the job was that bad. We actually had record sales when I was there. I knew I was denying my calling. I knew I was denying what I was designed or created to do, which was to work some measure of service, right? And so, because of the commitment I made, I'm like, you will do this job no matter what. You will do this for 2 years. So I stuck it out. So I wake up in the morning, I vomit, and I go to work. And I think, I say this, and sometimes people like nod in agreement because they've been in that job. Like they've been in that profession where they feel like there's no purpose or fulfillment within it. And I'm like, but I committed myself to being the best that I could be at that job and making sure I ran that forward. Well, towards the end of that, my wife looks at me, and she had a degree from USF in mass communications, was working at Kello, right? And she's like, I never wanted to go to college. I just wanted to go to hair school, but everybody tells you have to go to college, right? And I'm like, well, I don't like this job. She's like, how about this? I'll go back to hair school, you become a cop. We'll just shift it up here. So we made that decision. We both went our different directions. It turned out to be perfect for us, especially as we raised our kids. The way we could work our schedule. But again, got hired at the police department. The first neighborhood I patrolled was my paper route as a kid, right? And that was where, and it was 11th in Duluth, the epicenter of what was happening in town. And I grew up there and thought I knew the neighborhood, had no idea what was taking place in my own neighborhood, right? Even though I was in the middle of it. I kind of thought, oh yeah, what do? You make a few traffic stops and something exciting happens every so often. Now keep in mind, 2005, we don't know what we know now. There's not this constant cycle of information that flows through. And so, I'm like, what was the first observation for me was just how rough it was for people in my neighborhood. The kids, the people that I grew up with, gave me a kind of a retrospective insight into these kids I went to at Lowell, at Axtell Park, and Lincoln High School. What were they experiencing? And now I'm running into them on calls, right? And I'm running into them, and I'm seeing them. With the first field training, I put handcuffs on a guy that was in my homeroom, you know? And so we had at least we knew each other, we had a relationship. My training officers looked like me, like I came from the moon, because they're like, how do you know everybody? I'm like, well, this is my town, this is my neighborhood, this is where I'm from, you know? And so always making those connections, but I always had a bit of a unique perspective, but I think I'm gonna try to stay on topic to a certain degree today, because you think he's long-winded, hand me a mic, I can talk for all day now, right? Because I always joke I'm a pastor's kid, so if you hand me a mic and some time, I can fill it up. But you know, to kind of keep that. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. There's that thing too. But it's unique too, because I grew up as a kid. Oh, there's the water behind me. I grew up with a speech impediment. I'm a stutterer. Was terrified of public speaking, but we pursue some of the things we struggle with, and then we work them out a little bit, and we start to find where our purpose is. But you know, on the topic today, I had a unique perspective growing up. Not every kid, when they're 7 years old, gets to walk up on the hill, walk behind the first set of gates, and look down the corridor, right? And see on either side that penitentiary. Ironically, when we have these discussions today about building a prison, when I walk in there now, it's the exact same thing it was in that time. And again, the environment, and just, I'm a strong advocate for people to have better services within prison, but also a better facility with which to live. And I think that's something that's got pretty political and pretty highly discussed. But from my position as a police chief, I'm not political. I just see what I see and understand that maybe there's an opportunity impact for change. But being a kid, to that as a prison chaplain, you have a whole new perspective. And it was different back then. I remember not lifers, but guys who were in for pretty serious crimes coming and having Christmas dinner with us. You know, sitting at our table, doing different things, and kind of being able to understand. And now, come full circle, I became a cop. It's like, well, what's the circumstances, or what's the story that got us to where we're at? And what's the full thing that it goes? Now we exist in some measure of conflict by the time we end up with a police interaction, because something has gone wrong, but it didn't just go wrong in that moment. It went wrong way back there, right? And it puts us in a position where we're typically at odds in that moment, but again, this was decades or years in the making. And what I'll often say is the byproduct of that is how we fail to keep kids. And again, as one of my early perspectives as a cop is when I go into a call and I'd be like, this poor kid doesn't have a chance, right? Because the adults in that kid's life are failing him, which is why you'll see me, and again, I'm not as polite as I used to be about this topic, and I think my dad was kind of gently tiptoeing on it a little bit. He was being nice about it. I'm not nice anymore. It is unacceptable to me that despite the fact we've been pushing ad nauseum about the need for youth mentorship and engagement with youth mentors, our 9 title schools saw 40% reduction in mentors, right? Unacceptable to me, simply unacceptable from my position. Because I can tell you if the investment isn't made back there, then the investment's gonna be made here, and then in the penitentiary or jails if we don't continue to interrupt these cycles when it's early and often. And so, at first I was like, yeah, please do something if you have time. I'm like, no. I go, if you're not doing anything, I don't care about your opinion. I go, your Facebook comment isn't changing the world. Like, your comment that you're making here, words without action are just that, words. But action needs to be followed, right? And I think this emphasis that we have to do something miraculous is not the case. Like to show grace and love to a child, just to show up for him. Yeah, it's not miraculous. You don't have to be a therapist. You just got to be a human being who cares. And so I mentor this kid. We've been going 2.5 years. He's got some issues. Let's just say he's been in ISS and OSS quite a bit more than the regular population at this point. But again, we keep going. We keep showing up, right? We keep going there. And this is not a me story because I'm doing nothing remarkable. I'm just showing up for this kid. But he says to me like a month ago, he's like, you're the best mentor I've ever had. I go, qualify that for me, right? Because I want to know how to pass your message to the public. Because I know it's not me. He goes, you're the only one that's ever showed up for me consistently, right? So it doesn't take this huge miraculous act. I think you guys were kind of talking about just little things, right? Little things make big differences down the road. And they may not make apparent differences right from the start, but down the road they can look back and say, that person showed up for me, that person cared for me. And again, I also think as a society, as a public, when we invest in kids, we also gain empathy for what happens down the road, right? We know that person who got in that position did things. And for example, just a couple weeks ago, we worked through, as chief, I'm constantly preparing for the worst case scenario. To have one of our officers shot, was obviously a big event for our agency and for our community, because it hasn't happened for so long, right? But we ultimately have to be looking at, when this tragedy happens, we still have to be looking back at everything that happened down the road, which is why I'm a huge push for services within our legal system, huge push for services for kids, because again, the downstream effect is tragedy, right? And again, it's something that we have to continue to work on and place a level of importance. And I think sometimes people look at government and like, government's gonna solve this one. I think I can already tell government isn't efficient. Government only has limitations. They can do certain things, which is, and people have to care enough, communities have to care enough. And that's why I get this question all the time. Well, Sioux Falls is growing rapidly. How do we keep Sioux Falls, Sioux Falls? And again, fun fact for people, I don't think they realize Sioux Falls is bigger than Des Moines. Did you guys know that? The population of Sioux Falls is bigger than Des Moines.
What?
Not Des Moines Metro, right? Des Moines proper. So, Des Moines has 370 cops, we have 302. Because growth at our city's potential is impossible to keep up with. Des Moines has been growth constrained since about 1980 when the suburbs grew around it. If you look at our growth boundaries, we'll easily exceed 300,000, 350,000 within not too long a time. So how do we keep Sioux Falls, Sioux Falls? How do we keep it unique the way it is? Because I still say we collaborate better than anywhere else. From a law enforcement standpoint, from a government standpoint, from a nonprofit standpoint, nobody does it as well as we do. But we keep it that way by getting our people to take ownership and invest in programs. Again, you saw last week, if you watched press conference, I did a little bit of a push for neighborhood soccer. You guys familiar with that program? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Not enough volunteers, right? Not enough volunteers again. It's one Saturday. It's an hour and a half. So I gotta use my position, and I will always use my position, and the mayor's been consistent with this too, to push volunteerism, push giving back to the community. and push propping up these programs for these young kids, because at the end of the day, the kids don't care who I am. They could care less that I'm the chief of police. Found that out pretty quickly. Funny story. So, Garfield neighborhood soccer, I'm the head coach usually in the fall. One of my lieutenants helps me out. Got this group of high school kids from Harrisburg who kind of adopted this park. One kid in particular named Emery, who's now at School of Mines getting his engineering degree. I'm running neighborhood soccer. It's like cats, herding cats. It's wild. And I'm talking to the organizer, Randall Beck, who does a great job with Cali Shock and organizing this whole program. I'm like, we need help. Like, let's hit up the high school soccer programs. So Emery comes in and his buddies, and Emery looks like the kids that are there. He can relate to the kids that are there. Immediately, Emery and his group of friends, the kids just gravitate towards him. And what do I become? Something that I think I'm okay at. I become the administrator of the program. Right? So put things into place, give people directions where they need to be, and immediately kids and lives are being impacted in a unique way. And now I see kids at Louis Drug, and the kid walks up to me, he's like, hey Dad, that's my soccer coach. I'm like, I'm not the chief of police, I'm that kid's soccer coach. And this is kids who don't have the opportunity to pay for play soccer like my kids do. This is their league, this is important to them. So we get the awards for the end of the year, and me and Lieutenant Seymour and Emery go to Garfield to hand out the medals. And this is the first medal that many of these kids will ever get. And big deal for them. We show up, I'm in full uniform, Lieutenant's in full uniform, Emery's in a t-shirt and jeans. Walk into the gym, who do the kids go to? Emery, right? One of them looks at Andy and I, and he goes, because it's like, it's Halloween, he goes, you guys dressed up for Halloween? So again, our service is important, absolutely. What we do impactful, but yeah, in many ways, what the regular person does, right, just by showing up is even more impactful. And so we look at grace, we look at different things, and just one other program just kind of highlight it. Have you guys heard of Leaders of Tomorrow? Justice Impacted Group, another great program. Came through a grant. It's a cooperation between the court systems, the whole justice system. Well, they take individuals who have just got out of jail. This usually is in the prison. One started behind the prison walls now. And they give them, Think 3D gives the same sort of coaching that they give businesses, this group of individuals who are just coming out of jail. Some of them have pending charges, some of them don't, but they're usually kind of mid-level charges. We're not to the point where this is super serious, because why early intervention matters. Well, this program has been able to kind of flip the recidivism numbers, I might get them wrong, on their head, where 70% of the people who come to this program within a year haven't reoffended. Amazingly successful. Because if you look at it, the flip side, it's the exact opposite. And so I'm the guys that run it, I've known them. I went to high school with them. Again, connections about being from town. And the mayor and I both go to this class on separate times. Well, they always recognize the mayor, but they don't recognize me. Because I come in looking like this, right? Or even, maybe a little grungier. And I sit and I listen to them all talk. And then at some point, they turn it over to me. And I get up and I say, hey, anybody know who I am? And I've been there probably 5 times now. And one person, this last time, just goes, I think I recognize you. You're on TV sometimes. You're the police chief, aren't you? Yeah. And then it was like, oh. And like, well, I go, let me tell you why I'm here. I'm here because in a world that tells you that nobody cares what happens to you, the exact opposite is true. Many people communicate to you, you may think that the vast majority of the world doesn't want you to succeed. Well, I'm talking to the world, and I know differently. They want you to succeed. And I'll tell you this, our officers, they want you to succeed as well, and I want you to succeed. Why? Because we're working too hard. And we're like anybody else. We'd rather get paid the same amount of money to do less work, right? No, but then we kind of bring home to say, we want that success story. Like, we want to get behind somebody, because that actually is human nature. While human nature may be described as something that you want to see people know, we want the story to cheer about. We want the program that works. We want that success story. So while you may listen to this chatter, that's not the truth of what's there. And so, talk to these programs, I see these the people, and I interact with them a little bit. A unique thing happened. About a month afterwards, I go to Thunder Road with my kids, 14, 12, 11. And I look over and I see a guy from the class. And he's with, what I assume is a significant other and a couple kids. And I see that we're both sharing the same joy, right, of being at Thunder Road with our kids, having fun, right? And we can look at each other. I'm getting the timing, the shepherd's hook up here again. Yeah. And then and looking at this too is like, yeah, this is something that we share as a community, is this. And so, again, like I said, I could talk all day. We can talk a little bit afterwards too. But find your little thing, right? Find your little thing with which you impact the community. And it's the same speech I give everybody, right? Because I think it's that important. And if you aren't doing anything, you need to look introspectively as to why, right? And if that's not there, if you're not producing some sort of action, then it's probably best to save your opinion. Seriously. That's kind of the way it is. I give this group to everybody, but it's a unique time in our society, for our community, where action is absolutely necessary. So find your way, your sphere of influence to impact something, because the small thing can be the big thing for somebody, right? And I think that's where we have to work together as a community to give people grace and do the small thing for them, right? And that's how it starts. But again, appreciate the invitation, appreciate being here. I'm not sure who's talking next. Do you want me to sing a song? No, I'm not a very good singer. I'm a choral singer, not a soloist, so there you go.
Thank you so much, Dennis. That was very inspiring. We are going to do, at the time, of course, our church does, these funds operate and whatnot, so I'm gonna go ahead and, I want to thank you for your generosity, and just to let you know, half of our plate offerings today are going to support the Transformation Project. We are going to do, actually I think we're going to move right on to extinguish our chalice, because we are kind of at our time limit. Thank you. Let's do the words to receive our offering. These gifts freely, we receive these gifts gratefully. We dedicate these gifts to the work of our congregation, serving human wholeness, caring for our planet, upholding religious freedom, welcoming the stranger, loving one another. I don't know about you, but I love interactive. Right? Okay, the chalice is extinguished. but the light goes with us out into the world. We're gonna have just a short prelude, or postlude, and then we will have a short, treats downstairs in the basement. We'll meet back up here at 11:20 for circle time. I hope you'll join us downstairs. We have coffee and generally cookies and other things.
How are you, Frank? Doing good, how about you?
Doing well, thank you. Good to see you here. How are you? It's always good to be seen. It's all it will do, apparently.
Good morning, how are you? Good morning.